It's been called the final frontier, but for the cremated remains of 24 people who dreamed of traveling to space, including Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry and the LSD prophet Timothy Leary, it's even more than that. It's their destiny.
Gene was in love with space, I mean, with the future.
Timothy pointed to me and said, I want you to get me into space.
And so 24 families are the first to do something quite extraordinary for their dearly departed loved ones.
We're looking at the first launch ever to take cremated remains into space.
That's right. Monday, over the Canary Islands, this jetliner launched a Pegasus rocket, which carried those ashes, each in a lipstick-sized vial, into space, something this mission's promoters hope will become a new commercial venture.
We're right now taking contracts for our next mission.
The late Gene Roddenberry is the most famous passenger aboard. His widow, Majel, explains why she took this step.
He would have given anything to have been able just once to, take that trip or go up into space.
We have ignition and liftoff of Atlanta.
Like Roddenberry, all of the others wanted to travel to space while they were alive. Now, for $4,800, their families made dreams of space come true.
My father was an astronaut. He was a dreamer. And, today his dreams are being realized.
Gerald Conte's son Rod and his sister Sandra Scala sent their dad into the atmosphere.
I know when I look up, I know that my father's on one of those stars looking down, saying, I told all of you, I can do it.
For the Harvard professor who searched for new galaxies within the human mind, Timothy Leary's friend of 30 years, Carol Rosin, got him into space.
He's always wanted to travel in the circle of space pioneers, and there's space pioneers on this, and that made him really happy too.
Not everyone on this flight was famous. Omer Lampkin ran a supply company in Kentucky. He traveled the world on vacations, but always wanted space to be his final destination. Paula Lampkin is his daughter.
This morning, at the airport, watching the Stargazer leave with the Pegasus on it, it was such a joy. And if he gets to go up there for one complete orbit, that's all I ask.
But Chan Tyser, president of Celestis, expects the rocket to be in space much longer than that.
We'll orbit the Earth roughly every 90 minutes, and that orbit should last for about 6 years.
And with an ending that only Gene Roddenberry could write, Chan Tyser says the rocket will disintegrate into a ball of fire and streak across the sky like a shooting star.
This Celestis launch makes it possible for all of us to see, as the re-entry takes place, when the burn-up of this rocket occurs, that we are the light. And that was Timothy's message.
Probably the day I was born. I must have had stars in my eyes.
At 67 years of age, Jerrie Cobb says she still has the right stuff to take part in a mission she says has eluded her for 38 years.
Had I been born male, I would have been in the Air Force flying a test pilot and probably have made several trips into space by now.
Despite that statement, Jerrie Cobb is more a woman of deeds than words. So to understand her story, we need to step back to the dawn of the space age. The year was 1959. NASA had launched an ambitious program led by a group of dashing young heroes known as the Mercury 7.
I knew aviation was a man's field, and certainly space was more so. And I was hoping and praying that I would be able to be America's first lady astronaut.
Cobb began flying when she was 12. She served as a pilot in World War II, and by the 1950s, Jerrie had set 4 world aviation records for speed, distance, and altitude. But after all, Jerrie was still a woman. As NASA's Mercury 7 underwent a battery of grueling tests, Cobb was privately invited to undergo the same tests to measure a woman's suitability for spaceflight.
The physical tests took 8 days. It was a series of 87 different tests, and they checked everything you can imagine.
Then, 29, Cobb underwent 3 years of tests and passed all 3 phases, doing as well or better than the men.
I'm not competing with the men at all. I think that both men and women will be flying in space.
When Cobb's results were made public, she instantly became a darling of the media. Then came the bad news. Jerrie and 12 other women candidates were notified that all astronauts must be military jet test pilots. In those days, that meant men only. In 1962, Jerrie Cobb took her case to Congress.
The rules have been established to where it makes it impossible for women to meet the qualifications of astronauts.
But NASA's decision not to consider a woman's space program was partly sealed on John Glenn's congressional testimony. Men go off and fight the wars and fly the airplanes. The fact that women are not in this field is a fact of our social order.
I was disappointed that he felt that way, but John Glenn is a friend, and even though we differ on a few things, he's still a very nice man.
Certainly you were disappointed, but did you find unexpected rewards?
Oh yes, when it became apparent that my country was not going to send women pilots into space for a long, long time, I decided to use my talent serving others.
She heard of John Glenn's orbit, America's conquest of the moon, the entry of women into the space program, and the triumph and tragedy of space flight. Cobb knows the risks, but has never wavered.
I want to fly in space more than anything else in life. It just seems like what I was destined to do.
But then came NASA's announcement that her friend, John Glenn, at the age of 77, would make a historic return to space. For Jerrie, that meant hope.
I'm asking for the same opportunity they're giving John Glenn.
NASA spokeswoman Peggy Wilhide.
She'd have to pass rigorous medical tests and do this exact same kind of training that Senator Glenn has done. He's been down in Houston for almost a year training specifically for this mission.
So, on October 29th, when John Glenn boards the shuttle Discovery, Jerrie Cobb says she'll be close by, in body and in spirit.
I'll be standing on the beach waving my friend John Glenn off in space. Very happy for him.
And hoping for her chance to reach for the stars.
Oh, that would be the fulfillment of my deepest dream. I would say, thank you, America.
Roswell, New Mexico was settled by cowboys, but now it's known for something very different.
Most people think there's something happened here.
I'm not really sure what happened, but obviously something happened.
Something crashed. Evidence shows that probably it was an extraterrestrial craft.
Did a UFO crash on this site 70 miles northwest of Roswell in July of 1947? Were extraterrestrial beings recovered in a top-secret military operation? Or did the wreck of a then-classified spy balloon turn into one of the tallest tales of all time?
I personally feel that there was a crash of some unidentified flying object that I feel came from outer space somewhere.
Lieutenant Walter Hott was public relations officer at Roswell Army Airfield in July of 1947, when he received an order that would change his life.
Put out a press release that we have in our possession a flying saucer.
Hott's release was based on findings by Army crash site investigator, the late Major Jesse Marcel.
I was amazed at what I saw. The amount of debris that was scattered over such an area.
Pieces of that debris were very unusual, according to Marcel's son.
They had what appeared to be writing on the inner surface of them. This writing consisted of various types of geometric figures.
The headlines from Roswell ignited a firestorm of curiosity.
Phones were ringing as if the world was coming to an end. Everybody wanted to know all the details about this flying discs that we had in our possession.
But one day later, the High Command, through General Roger Ramey, said the big story was hot air, that Major Marcel's debris was nothing more than a wrecked weather balloon. And for many years, the Roswell incident remained shrouded in secrecy.
This is a military town. You didn't talk a lot about strange things that happened that the military might be involved with.
Roswell native Stan Crosby has led recent efforts to promote the town's strange past.
We can't always choose what we're famous for. Roswell is famous for the Roswell incident.
Back in 1947, if the government told you to shut up for national security reasons, you did it.
Roswell's International UFO Museum is drawing throngs to its new quarters.
A major draw of this museum is the mystery. Everyone loves a mystery, and this is one of the biggest mysteries in our history of the world.
Yeah, that thing that you found in New Mexico.
Dad.
What was that?
Not the spaceship.
What was that? Roswell, New Mexico, yeah. No, you had the spaceship and you had the bodies.
Hollywood has done its share to enhance the Roswell mystique, but the truth remains elusive.
My interest is finding the government's file on the subject of what happened in Roswell in 1947.
In 1994, New Mexico Congressman Stephen Schiff asked the Pentagon for answers. The Air Force replied that it was not a weather balloon that crashed, but a top-secret spy balloon, Project Mogul, used to monitor Soviet nuclear testing.
Air Force research did not locate or develop any information that the Roswell incident was a UFO event, nor any indication of a cover-up.
UFO researchers like Roswell expert Stanton Friedman remain skeptical.
It's a whitewash. It's a lie. It's a continuation of lies that various Air Force officers have been making about flying saucers since 1947.
I know something happened out there.
Summoned to the airbase on the night of the crash, retired Roswell mortician Glenn Dennis says he encountered a terrified nurse.
She screamed, said, "Go ahead and get out of here as fast as you can."
The TV movie Roswell recreated what she told him later.
I saw the bodies.
What bodies?
They were fetus-shaped.
4 fragile fingers with little, like, pads on the end. They only had 2 orifices for the nose. They didn't have a bridge or anything like us. They didn't have earlobes. They had 2 ear canals. The mouth was only like 1 inch. No teeth, no esophagus, and all that.
50 years later, Roswell is enjoying its bizarre notoriety, and that's okay with new Mayor Tom Jennings.
It's been a real economic boon to our community. It's filled up a lot of motels.
So as long as the mystery continues, people will continue to go to Roswell.
I don't think that we'll ever know all of the truth.